How did an underground hip-hop label rescue acoustic jazz from total obscurity? The story begins in the sunlit suburban neighborhoods of Los Angeles, where Kamasi Washington was born on February 18, 1981, into a family deeply rooted in the local art scene. From his earliest days, he was stepping into a vibrant world, already echoing with rich melodies and constant rhythm. He was raised in a lively household that was completely saturated with sound. His mother gently played the flute, filling the air with delicate notes, while their home functioned as a sanctuary where every corner seemed to hold some kind of instrument, just waiting to be picked up and explored. The guiding force in this musical upbringing was his father, Ricky Washington, who worked both as a professional saxophonist and a respected local educator. Ricky carefully nurtured his son's earliest artistic inclinations, initially teaching the young boy to play the clarinet and instilling a strict foundational discipline. Though he showed promise on the clarinet, the young musician was still searching for the specific tone that could truly channel his inner spirit. Around the age of 12, he made a pivotal choice and transitioned over to the tenor saxophone, a heavy brass instrument that demanded respect. He picked up the horn and instantly found his voice. He demonstrated an immediate, completely natural aptitude for the complex saxophone, as if he had been playing it for decades. This singular moment of discovery laid the essential foundation for what would become a deeply rhythmic and profoundly influential creative life. That natural ability found a home in the city's robust educational infrastructure. As Kamasi attended the Academy of Music at Alexander Hamilton High School, there, he connected with lifelong peers like bassist Stephen Bruner, later known as Thundercat, building a foundation of shared musical language. By 1999, Washington had enrolled in UCLA's ethnomusicology program, seeking to deepen his formal understanding of the art form. The real education happened off-campus. He received direct mentorship from first-generation jazz figures like drummer Billy Higgins, who brought the young saxophonist to perform at the world stage in Leimert Park. This vital Pan-African incubator connected Kamasi's formal academic training with the neighborhood's deep lineage of community-based spiritual jazz. Armed with years of virtuosic training and a deep reverence for the music's history, Kamasi Washington and his peers formed the tight-knit collective known as the West Coast Get Down. They were ready to conquer the local scene, but their emergence coincided with a grim and unforgiving economic reality. By the early 2000s, the vibrant landscape they had envisioned was rapidly vanishing. Traditional, acoustic-focused jazz clubs across Los Angeles were steadily closing their doors, stripping away the very foundation these young artists needed to hone their craft and connect with audiences. Furthermore, the national music industry still heavily favored established East Coast acts. With every unanswered call and rejected demo, the collective struggled endlessly to find consistent booking in conventional venues, as promoters remained hesitant to take a chance on West Coast instrumentalists. Facing this crumbling infrastructure and a dwindling number of local stages, Kamasi stared down a calendar filled with empty dates. The highly trained musicians realized that their pure dedication to the craft was no longer enough to keep them afloat. Playing jazz alone could not sustain them financially. This brutal turning point forced the young collective to look far beyond the boundaries of the acoustic tradition to survive in a rapidly changing world. To survive the harsh financial realities of the modern music industry, Kamasi Washington entered the lucrative but incredibly grueling touring circuit, traveling endlessly from city to city and living out of suitcases. Over the next decade, he worked extensively as a backing saxophonist for a myriad of massive hip-hop and R&B artists, laying down tracks and playing behind cultural icons like Snoop Dogg and Lauryn Hill. While this relentless session work provided much-needed financial stability and industry connections, it kept Washington almost entirely anonymous to the mainstream audience, operating in the background while the stars took the spotlight. He was a master operating completely unseen, yet performing in those massive high-energy arenas night after night instilled in him a sheer physical stamina and a fierce rhythmic aggression that a traditional, refined jazz conservatory could never possibly provide. He was no longer just practicing delicate scales. He was absorbing the overwhelming power of stadium hip-hop, slowly forging an earth-shattering sound that would eventually redefine modern jazz when it finally stepped out of the shadows. That hip-hop stamina transferred directly to their personal project, as the West Coast Get Down secured a weekly Wednesday night residency at the Piano Bar, a dive in Hollywood. Operating far outside the polite confines of the traditional jazz scene, they found themselves playing to rowdy, standing room crowds. To project their music over the sheer volume of the drinking audience, the band embraced an intensely polyrhythmic style on that squeezed stage. A new kind of jazz was born in the noise, blending the spiritual roots of Leimert Park with heavy stage energy. Kamasi and his bandmates forged a fiercely unique sonic identity. It was an aggressive, high-volume sound that would soon redefine what contemporary instrumental music could achieve on the modern stage. By late 2011, their electrifying Piano Bar Residency had built an intensely loyal local following across Los Angeles, but they still had absolutely no recorded output to show for all those magnificent nights. Feeling the immense pressure of lost time, the members of the collective decided to take a massive gamble, pooling together all of their hard-earned hip-hop tour money to fund a massive undertaking. They booked an ambitious month-long lockout recording session, setting up camp at king-size sound labs, where they could completely isolate themselves from the relentless distractions of the outside world and focus entirely on their craft. Operating for 12 to 14 grueling hours every single day, the vast studio became their absolute universe, filled with an endless maze of coiled cables, heavy microphones, and purely unadulterated creative energy. Pushing their bodies and instruments to the absolute brink of physical exhaustion, they desperately aimed to permanently capture the sheer, untamed lightning they had first created on those tiny, crowded club stages. This grueling lockout session proved to be the ultimate turning point for Kamasi and his deeply connected peers. Inside the studio, they fully immersed themselves in a shared vision, determined to capture a sound that had been evolving for years. Rotating the role of band leader throughout the month, the collective worked with relentless energy to record nearly 200 original compositions. It was a fierce environment where every musician pushed the others to their absolute limits. It was an unprecedented burst of creativity that shattered the typical constraints of a commercial studio timeline. The sheer volume and intensity of the music they laid down to tape went far beyond standard industry expectations. Kamasi's specific compositions from these exhaustive 2011 sessions would eventually form the skeletal structure of his magnum opus. He realized that what they had just created was much larger than a mere compilation of studio tracks. He walked away from king-size sound labs at sunrise, carrying heavily loaded hard drives. They contained a massive archive of raw, untamed spiritual jazz, setting the stage for a dramatic shift in the musical landscape. For years following the lockout, Kamasi labored over this massive body of recordings in quiet isolation, painstakingly writing intricate string and choir arrangements in order to elevate the core band's energy to an entirely new spiritual level. But before he could independently release this dense and overwhelmingly ambitious work to the public, his mainstream breakthrough suddenly arrived through an entirely unexpected avenue, changing the trajectory of his career overnight. In 2014, his childhood peer and fellow musician Terrace Martin was deeply involved in producing Kendrick Lamar's highly anticipated third studio album, a project that would soon shake the cultural landscape. Fully recognizing Kamasi's unparalleled mastery of the saxophone and his deep understanding of musical theory, Martin brought him directly into the closed-door recording sessions to add a profound new layer to the sound. This single crucial invitation seamlessly bridged the historic gap between Los Angeles jazz virtuosity and mainstream hip-hop architecture, placing a vanguard jazz artist right at the very center of the pop culture conversation. Kamasi's contributions to Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly proved crucial. Working alongside producer Terrace Martin, he began weaving complex acoustic textures into the hip-hop masterpiece. He specifically arranged lush strings for the closing track, Mortal Man, channeling the foundational musical training he received in Los Angeles. Released in early 2015, the album was an absolute cultural landmark that bridged the Los Angeles beat scene with traditional jazz virtuosity. It placed Kamasi's dense, spiritual saxophone arrangements directly into the ears of millions, reaching fans far beyond the typical jazz audience. This high-profile collaboration provided the perfect launching pad, permanently transforming the anonymous session player into an essential architect of modern music. With his profile rapidly rising across the local Los Angeles scene, Washington sought an outlet to release his massive, sprawling archive from the exhaustive 2011 studio lockout sessions, searching for a home that would respect the raw integrity of his work. Instead of approaching a traditional, established jazz imprint that might have demanded creative compromises, he surprisingly partnered with Brainfeeder, an independent, forward-thinking electronic music label founded by visionary producer Stephen Flying Lotus Ellison. Flying Lotus, serving as a crucial bridge between the electronic beat scene and traditional instrumentation, immediately understood the visionary scale of the project, seeing the unedited recordings as a monumental cultural statement rather than just another album. Rather than following conventional industry wisdom and aggressively editing the exhaustive, sprawling sessions down to a standard single disc, the independent label chose a radically different path, entirely embracing the sheer unrelenting excess of the musical material. They fully committed to presenting the Epic project in its absolute entirety, without a single compromise or shortened track. A bold, defiant decision that would soon send shockwaves through the global contemporary music landscape. Titled The Epic, the final release was a staggering 172-minute journey. To realize his vision, Washington layered the original West Coast Get Down recordings with sprawling arrangements for a 32-piece orchestra. He combined these rich instrumentals with passionate, soaring vocals from a 20-person choir. This immense scale completely transformed their aggressive dive bar energy into a sweeping cinematic masterpiece. Released in May 2015, its massive runtime demanded patience, yet it offered an immersive experience unlike anything else. When the colossal 3-volume album, The Epic, dropped in 2015, it collided directly with an urgent socio-political climate and ignited a massive, global spiritual jazz revival that no one saw coming. Standing at the center of this cultural earthquake was Kamasi Washington and his dedicated Los Angeles collective, a group of lifelong friends who chose to completely bypass the traditional gatekeepers of the jazz establishment. Instead of playing exclusively in quiet-seated venues, they brought their sprawling cosmic sound to massive festival stages, finding a wildly enthusiastic audience among hip-hop and electronic music fans who recognize the raw power of their performance. The overwhelming success of their independent release proved definitively that this music was a vibrant, constantly evolving force capable of capturing the modern cultural zeitgeist, rather than something preserved behind glass. By betting everything on their own unapologetic vision, these relentlessly hardworking musicians not only honor the rich history of their predecessors, but successfully resurrected the genre for an entirely new generation of listeners and creators.